And it's changed in the last several years in a positive way, where female education and female empowerment is one of the top movements in the country, definitely. Yeah. I get some news feeds about news from India, She the People, and one of them is called Better News India, and there is individual and group stories about phenomenal changes that are going on there, where women are making their own decisions, realizing why is it so important to have the education and be financially independent as well, to make your own decisions. So the movement is happening big time there, and these girls are part of what's happening, in that country now too.
India has an interesting political system, because I believe they have a head of state and a head of the country, almost like a head of the culture.
Yeah, so it's like the British system. The prime minister, here you have president, and there you have, they call chief ministers, and here you have, what do they call them, governors in our state, that make the state decisions and things like that. But it is over 1 billion people. It is a democracy, definitely.
And Modi, he's the
current prime minister is President Modi.
But don't they have another position where
there is a president? She's a female,
yes.
and one of her great stories about her, she's from the same state that the girls are from.
Really?
Yeah, and she comes from, so I don't know how to use this term, but some of the rural communities are called tribal communities, very indigenous people in the land. And she's also from a tribal community. That's where, and she was a teacher also too. So she's a huge representation of what we want the girls to see, what you can become in your own life one day. And she's the president, yes.
She's a real symbol of modern India.
Absolutely, yeah. And she's from the same state. I'm just ecstatic about that the girls are from, which is Odisha. Yeah.
Have you ever read the book, The White Tiger?
I don't think I've heard the title.
Okay, it might be a movie on Netflix as well, but I read it years ago, I think when I was in like a freshman in high school, and that was kind of my first exposure to the culture of India. And, and that book's about someone who grew up in a very rural village and eventually went on to he moved into I think New Delhi, and
big city. Yeah,
it's a story of moving from like that village culture into the modern culture and into the big city, and what India is becoming.
Right.
It's kind of a dark story. I don't know if I should recommend it. But that seems to be a very common running theme with how I guess India is nowadays.
Yeah, opportunities, just like in lots of countries, are in the bigger cities and places. But what I've seen with the young men is that have graduated from the boys' school is that they've gone off to big cities to get education, but they're bringing it back to the villages and communities. I think that's where modern and rural can really support each other, bringing that back to helping educate everybody. Then that's powerful. You're not just staying in the city to use what you've learned and your knowledge. No, I'm going to take it back to the places that I want to help.
Yeah, and working to raise that standard of living so that you have people in those communities who are healthier, who live longer lives, and who just have a more of a sense of well-being, or have the benefits that the modern world can offer them, which I'm sure there's drawbacks as well in some senses, but I mean, it also seems it's great that the school is doing this in a way that the students are still being grounded in that tradition and culture.
Definitely. They're not allowed to have cell phones.
Oh, that's
it's not affordable either.
Yeah.
Maybe a whole family would have one. That everybody would use, and I've seen some of the research recently about that. I think it was in Denmark, with they want to make sure kids don't have a lot of exposure. They've seen what it's doing with attention span and all the kind of things that are coming out of that as well too.
Well, speaking of the attention span, I mean, the best thing you can do for that is meditation.
Absolutely.
And that's something I've been exposed to, has been beneficial for me, and I wish I did it more. But just you see that just with the influence that India has had on the United States, where even with Valerie over at Neighborhood Yoga. I forget when she started that business, but I remember growing up and talking to my mom and my aunt and being like, what is this yoga thing that y'all are doing? Y'all are crazy. Like, what is this? But now that's such a common thing. And as I got into it, especially last semester when I was still working at the paper, doing the hurricane coverage and being in grad school and working at TA, I would go up to the Art of Living Center on Sundays and do their free community yogas, and I'll just be not sleeping or just stressed out, but able to go up there and do that, and then just for the rest of the week, I could just feel my attention span just being much better, just being much more grounded and being able to focus so much better on all the different things I was doing.
Yeah, it's recommended for so many things. You know, I'm a counseling background by profession and used it a lot in the work I did, even when I worked at Upstate with my students, you know, teaching them, you have control of this. It's your practice to give it to yourself, you know, and connect to yourself and bring that, you know, to yourself definitely. Really, really important to have those daily practices, you know, that sustain you, because stuff is always going to come at us, but what do I choose? How can I choose to respond instead of reacting, you know, to different situations and things like that? And I do want to thank Valerie. She's been a supporter of us from the very beginning. We've hosted some of our first events there. We host, you know, the Hindu New Year celebration, Diwali there.
Which is great.
She's a tremendous, you know, the biggest heart to support our work.